Everyone, Mike Palmer from Know Your Rights Group and Success Coaching International with another very important live video update tonight. I've heard some crazy stories over the last few days, which I'll get into during this video. Things are getting completely out of control and we must now put a stop to this madness. Enough is now enough. So primarily, this video is targeted to all policy enforcers because that's all they are, they're just policies. Okay, primarily the police. It'll also obviously have application to court staff, sheriffs, things like that. But this is also important for everybody else in the general public to watch and to get their heads around as well, because we really need everyone to understand this message and we need everyone to pass this message around and especially ensure that these policy enforcers get this important point. So I did a video, a few weeks back now, entitled, Where Do You Draw Your Line? It was one of our most well-received videos to date, and it was all about, where do you draw your line in the sand? What will you no longer accept? And so tonight's video is really asking the policy enforcers that same question. Okay, where do you draw your line? Where are you going to decide that enough is now enough? Now, as I explain in our live events, people always complain to us about the police. Oh, the police are this, the police are that, da-da-da-da-da. They want to blame the police for everything. Now listen, a lot of people don't realise I actually contracted to Victoria Police for 13 years. Okay, so I've heard all the stories, I've seen what goes on, I did all the internal investigations, tapes and decisions and all that kind of stuff. I was involved in all that side of things. Okay, I know a lot of police officers personally, a few of them know me, but that beside the point. It's like anything, all right? There's good and bad in any profession. There's good cops, there's bad cops, okay? But they're all just men and women, basically essentially trying to do, their best. Most cops that I've come across, and that I speak to, they joined the force because they genuinely wanted to do the right thing. They wanted to stop bad guys, okay? But along the way, things have, gone astray. You've got to remember as well, a lot of these people join the force fresh out of high school. They're very young, they're very impressionable. They go into training at the academy. They're shown all these graphic pictures of accidents and mangled bodies and all this stuff, told speed, and they're brainwashed into believing that speed is this great big killer, even though of course we tell people it's only a factor, not even the factor, just a factor in 5% of accidents. But that's not what they're taught in the academy. They're shown, really horrendous graphic images told all about speed. Okay, and then they go out and fresh out of the academy, out on the street, they do their basic, traffic duties, and then that indoctrination is complete. Okay, so they keep going through. Of course, they're given traffic benchmarks because police don't have quotas, as we know, as we've been told. Okay, traffic benchmarks. Okay, number of tickets they're supposed to write, and at this point, it's all complete. Then, all right, they can't get out. Okay, by the time they realise that it's all BS, okay, and none of it actually adds up, they feel like they're stuck. Okay, they're hooked on the income, their families are relying on the income, they feel like they're part of the family with the force. Now, of course, some people would say that, with the lovely private patches that they have on their shoulders and their fancy uniforms, they might in fact be part of a gang, but, we won't go there. Okay, it is what it is. But this is the challenge that we're dealing with. Now, the problem is right now, that's bad enough, and they really should be looking into that. They really should be questioning what they're doing and why they're doing it. But in recent times, things have escalated way beyond the ridiculous traffic fines. Of course, they still continue, but now we've got, police who are manning checkpoints, stopping people from exercising their God-given right to travel freely about the planet. Okay, police in Victoria are stopping people if they're out past some arbitrary curfew. Right? And now we've got instance after instance after instance where people are arresting people for not wearing these pathetic, flimsy paper face masks. Really? Is that what you signed up for, policy officer? Is that really the difference you wanted to make? Arresting people, sometimes quite viciously and violently and aggressively, all because someone wasn't wearing a flimsy, paper mask? Now, as I said, I heard two stories in this, just in the past couple of days, in fact. One of our very long-time members, her and her husband went to a supermarket. They weren't wearing their mask. They've got obviously medical exemptions. They were talking to a few people there. People were questioning them. That's all fine. Someone apparently videoed it. They followed them out to their car, unbeknownst to them, got their number plate. They went home at 9:30 at night. There was a knock on the door from the police wanting to question them about an incident in a supermarket for not wearing a mask. Now, here's the thing. They knocked on the door at 9:30 at night after driving an hour from the police station. And when they were talking to the police about this, they said, "Did you actually look at the video footage from the store to find out what really happened?" They said, "No." Okay? Now, you are outside your code of conduct. If you are operating, investigating a claim, and you haven't even looked at the footage, then you are in fact breaking curfew, because you have no right to be out past 8 o'clock at night. There's no justification from that, because you haven't done your job and haven't done a proper investigation first. And furthermore, there's absolutely no reason to be driving an hour at 9:30 at night to question somebody. It could have been left till business hours the next day. Okay, so that's one example. Now, there's another example, again, someone very close to me, a close and dear friend, was out with his partner, getting some dinner from a local restaurant or takeaway. They were standing there without their masks. There's no requirement to wear masks. The police have come in and created a scene. They have caused... Now, this guy was standing there with his hands in his pocket the whole time, and the police have escalated everything. All because of no flimsy paper mask. Ultimately, their food was ready. They said, "Great, we're going to grab our food and go." And the police capsicum sprayed him and his partner, tackled them to the ground. There was like 18 cops involved, all because he wasn't wearing a paper mask. Okay? Now, that is an absolutely ridiculous escalation and overreach of powers. Completely unnecessary. I mean, again, just logically, if they were worried that he might be spreading something because he wasn't wearing his mask, why tackle him to the ground, spray capsicum spray everywhere, have him and his partner sitting there coughing and spitting and spluttering with all this stuff, you know, out there in the public, spreading God only knows what he might have had? Okay, it makes absolutely no sense. Okay, and this is where things are becoming completely disproportionate. Okay, now, the problem is, as I said before, when the police do this, they're acting outside of their code of conduct. Okay, they're now acting in their private capacity, and that leaves them subject to being sued civilly. Now, this has always been the case. All right, we have reported on a number of stories, especially in the last few years, because it's been happening more and more and more. Okay, someone was awarded $30,000 damages, okay, because they were detained on a train station for not providing ID. Okay, another gentleman was awarded hundreds of thousands of dollars in compensation because the police followed him home and then forced him, because he refused a breath test on his own property, which he had no requirement to do once he'd entered his own driveway. Okay, and there's lots and lots of cases where police are being sued for hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're being sued personally, civilly, and people are winning. Okay, and this is about to escalate exponentially every single time one of these people who've been arrested come into contact with us and we explain all of this to them. Okay, so this is an important warning to all these policy enforcers. Okay, you are not protected, by the law. You're not protected for that kind of overreach of police powers. Now, if you're a police officer or anybody else watching this, I urge you, go to Darren's constitutionwatch.com.au website and look up the police powers section. There's some very important information there. Okay? Police officers do not have protection from the government when they're acting outside of their code of conduct. Okay? Their pay slips, people don't understand that they work for a private corporation. Police officers, go and look at your pay slip. Does it come from the Victorian government, New South Wales government, Queensland government? No. It comes from the Victorian, New South Wales State Police Force. It's a private corporation. It doesn't come from the government. Okay, now there was a case in Victoria where a couple of police officers tried suing the government, okay, for injuries that they sustained at work, but the government said that they were independent office holders, not employees of the state. So, I urge you, all of you, especially if you're a police officer watching this, okay, this is the article. It was from the Age newspaper, State Denies Duty of Care to Injured Police. And it says, in a bid to avoid a payout, the government is claiming that police officers are not technically employees of the state, but public officers conducting independent duties, absolving the government of civil liability for their injuries. The government denies that Mr. Boyer was employed by the government and says further that at all material times Mr. Boyer was executing independent duties cast upon him by reason of his oath taken under the Police Regulation Act 1958. The defence filed and the Supreme Court says the government denied it owed a duty of care to Mr. Boyer. So if you think that when you get sued because you have been, heavy-handed and arrested someone because they didn't wear one of these, okay, if you think that the state government's going to step up and look after you, they're not. Go and read the case, okay? You will not have any protection, okay? Now, as you all love to tell us, ignorance of the law is no excuse. Well, guess what? Equally, relying on a supposed law that you believe is correct, that turns out not to be, is also no excuse. Okay? You can't just go, oh, but, that's what I believed, or that's what my superiors told me. No, you are an independent office holder and you are required to go and do your own investigation and ascertain for yourself what actually is the law and what isn't the law. Okay? And if you act outside of the law, be prepared to be sued. Okay? So, if you want to understand what actually is the law and what isn't the law, I am urging everyone, especially police officers, to download this very important, just released open letter to government. It's by Serene Teffaha from Advocate Me. We have uploaded a copy of this to our vaccinations page. Just go to our vaccinations page, about halfway down, there's a link there to download the letter. I urge you all to download it and read it. Yes, it's 25 pages long. It's a very detailed letter, but it has some very important information as to what is really going on with these directives, why they are unlawful, why they are completely disproportionate, and why, if and when they are challenged, they will not hold up in a court of law. Okay, now if you're super busy and you really don't have time to read the whole thing, I urge you to go at least to page 22, okay, which references specifically the state of disaster in Victoria and explains step by step with specific references to the legislation that explains why you cannot rely on those directives as any kind of protection for your unlawful actions. Okay, please go and read this, all right? I'm looking out for you and I'm trying to help you, police officers, all right? And this is, of course, important for others to follow and for others to understand as well. Okay, so download that letter. You'll find it there. Also, in case you're wondering, I covered this on the video the other night, but the New Zealand court, the High Court in New Zealand, has ruled that the first lockdowns were unlawful. Okay, the same principles apply here in Australia. So if you as a police officer are relying on the lockdown laws, the directives, you are going to find that they will be overturned here in time as well, and therefore you were, maybe unknowingly, acting unlawfully. Well, it's not unknowingly now, okay, because now you know. Now you've watched this, someone's hopefully forwarded it to you, and now you know. Again, a copy of that article is available on the vaccinations page on our website. Just go to knowyourrightsgroup.com.au/vaccinations, or just click on the tab. You'll find all of those articles, all of those letters. Everything is there for you. You don't have to be a member. It's all freely, easily accessible. I urge you all to do it. Okay, now, once you understand this, you will hopefully understand that the repercussions of you continuing from this moment forwards to rely on those directives as grounds for stopping people, arresting people, questioning people are completely unfounded, and you're opening yourself to civil liability, personal liability. So, what can you do to avoid that? Well, the simplest thing is quit. Okay? I know it's hard, I know it's a shock, but that's what needs to be done. All right? I understand this may be challenging for you to get your head around. All right? I mean, I know it must be a shock, but you were expecting me to question everything that I've been taught by my superiors who I believed and relied on. Yes, that's exactly what we're doing. And Mark Twain said it perfectly. It's easier to fool people than it is to convince them that they have been fooled. Okay? And I understand it may be difficult. Okay? But it's what needs to be done. Now, here's the thing. It's also what should be done. Okay, because here's the thing, all police officers are men and women just like us. Okay, they've got families and everything too. Okay, so I understand that this is hard. All right, we have heard stories though of officers, stepping back when these sort of situations arise, questioning things, saying, I'm not sure that I want to be involved. And that's a great start, but more action needs to be taken by more officers. And ultimately, most of them will have to quit. That's the harsh reality. Okay. Now, I've even heard, I saw an article last week, the police in Geelong are now training to use semi-automatic weapons. What the hell for? Okay? What are you training to use semi-automatic weapons for? Like, really? I mean, you don't train for a marathon just in case you might run one day. No. Okay? This is crazy. What possible reason could there be 120 officers in, sleepy downtown Geelong training to use semi-automatic weapons? After all, after the whole Port Arthur massacre, didn't our government tell us that there's absolutely no reason for anyone to have semi-automatic rifles? Seems to only apply when they want it to. All right? Now, this is a question for all those officers who are conducting that training. Why? What for? Are you really going to shoot your own friends and family if it comes to that? Where do you draw your line? This is getting, completely out of control. So here's some things I'm going to ask you to consider. Okay? Is being forced to wear one of these stupid, ridiculous paper masks actually the best thing for your health, Mr. or Mrs. Officer? Okay, being forced to wear one of these for your whole shift, is that the best thing for your health? Now, here's another question. If this virus is so deadly and so contagious, and police on a daily basis are in such close contact and proximity to people, they're stopping them, they're questioning them, they're leaning into their cars, getting information, they're arresting people, which means they're touching them, people are coughing and spluttering and sniffing and sneezing and stuff all over them. Why hasn't a single officer contracted COVID-19? Something to think about. So, these are questions you need to ask. But at the end of the day, you need to ask, is this really what I joined up for? Is this it? Is this what I dedicated my life to becoming a police officer for? To issue fines and arrest people for not wearing one of these? And if you decide, no, that's not, then quit. Have the guts, have the courage to stand up and quit. Yes, I know it's hard. Yes, I know it's confronting. Yes, you might lose your income. But guess what? So have hundreds of thousands of other people around the country. Okay? It is what it is. But I can promise you this. Losing your job for a short period of time and losing your income for a short period of time is going to cost you a lot less in the long run than if you keep relying on unlawful directives, arresting people, assaulting people, and then getting sued civilly. Because then you'll lose everything. So, you've now been warned, you've now been informed, and now it's up to you to make a decision. All right, and I am urging everyone who's watching this video to share it around far and wide on all the social media and everything else, and get this video in front of police officers. Okay, get this document, download it, okay, and send a copy to your local police station and inform them. You have now been formally put on notice of the enclosed contents. If you continue to act unlawfully based on unlawful directives, you are at risk of being sued personally. Okay? Once the police stations get these documents, okay, they can't deny knowledge of the contents. I mean, what's one of the things that we say to people? If you're questioned by police about these directives, what directives? Who's this chief medical officer? I haven't heard anything, I haven't seen it, I haven't been given anything. Okay, well, if they can't prove that you got the directive, then you can't be in breach of it. Well, equal but opposite applies here. Once they've got the information in that open letter, once they understand why these directives are unlawful, they can't continue acting. Okay, because they've got no protection and they can't claim they weren't aware of it. And if everybody sends this to their police station, if everybody puts links, go onto all the Victoria Police Twitter feeds and Facebook feeds, and just in the comments, just put a link from our website to the letter, put it in the comments so that they're constantly bombarded with this letter. So no police officer can again say they weren't aware of it. Keep a copy in your car. Print out a few copies. Okay? And again, if you get pulled over by a police officer, just hand it to them. Say, here, read this. You need to understand. Take the details of their name. Because if that officer ever comes up against, oh, but I didn't know any of that. No. We've got a copy that you've given that information back on such and such date. Okay, we need to spread this information far and wide, people. People keep going, oh, well, what else can we do, Mike? What else can we do? This is what we can do. Get this out there. It's all explained in detail. It's a very well written letter. Okay, let's get this message out there. Okay, and to police, my message is simply this. You now need to do what you keep telling us to do, which is the right thing. Okay, you can't keep acting on these unlawful directives anymore. You need to start investigating. You need to start asking questions, and you need to start understanding the truth. If you're a traffic cop, grab a copy of our Aussie Speeding Fines book. Okay, read it, and you will understand the truth about the laws and the mere road rules that you keep trying to enforce. Okay, and for everyone else out there, of course, if you want to learn the truth about your rights, grab our Know Your Rights book. Okay, we've had a police officer come to one of our live events, and by the middle of day 2, he's like, but I can't go back to work and do my job anymore. Good. Get your head around this stuff. Learn this stuff, people. It's vitally important, and our future depends on it. Okay, so please, let's get this out there. And as always, I urge you all, whether you're a police officer or just any Joe or Jane in the street, now absolutely is the time to get informed, get fired up, and get proactive. Thank you, everyone. We'll talk to you all live on Tuesday night on our radio show at 8 o'clock.